Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something pretty fascinating and maybe a little bit mind-bending.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be talking about the possibility of a technologically advanced civilization existing before the Great Flood.
Okay.
And we'll be using Jonathan Gray's book, Dead Men's Secrets, as our guide for this deep dive.
All right.
So we're going to be looking at the evidence that he presents and seeing what it suggests about our past and maybe even our future.
I think one of the most captivating things about this whole topic is how much evidence there is that challenges the traditional timeline of history.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, around 3000 BC, we see the sudden rise of these sophisticated civilizations like Egypt, Sumeria, the Indus Valley.
Yeah.
And they just appear seemingly out of nowhere with these complex societal structures, intricate writing systems.
Yes.
And they were building incredible things like pyramids and massive temples.
Amazing structure.
It's like they skipped a few chapters in the history books.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It really does make you question that idea that societies just gradually evolve, from simple to complex.
Right.
These civilizations, they just kind of pop up fully formed.
Yeah.
Almost as if they inherited this knowledge from somewhere else.
And that's where Gray's theory comes in.
Exactly.
He's suggesting that they inherited this knowledge from a pre-flood civilization. And one of the most compelling pieces of evidence he presents is the existence of these ancient maps.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Piri Reis map.
Fascinating stuff.
Which dates back to the 16th century.
Okay.
And this map accurately depicts the coastline of Antarctica without the ice.
And that's not all.
Oh, wow.
It also shows rivers and mountain ranges that were only discovered centuries later hidden under the ice.
So to create a map this accurate, they would have needed to have a view from above.
Right.
I mean, think about it. They didn't have satellites or airplanes back then.
Oh, way.
So how is that even possible?
It really is a mystery, isn't it?
It's like finding a detailed blueprint of a skyscraper in a Neolithic village.
Yeah, good analogy.
It's almost as if they had some form of aerial technology that we're not even aware of.
You know what else is interesting?
What's that?
The maps aren't the only intriguing evidence.
Okay.
Gray also points to megalithic structures like Stonehenge as potential evidence of this advanced civilization.
Okay, so what's interesting about these structures?
Well, their placement for one thing.
Okay.
They seem to be strategically located around the world.
Right.
Often at what are called terrestrial power points.
Okay.
And Gray suggests that these structures, particularly those containing large amounts of quartz, were part of a global grid system.
Interesting.
Designed to harness and manipulate energy.
Hold on. So you're saying that these standing stones were acting as some sort of energy conductor?
That's the idea.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Well, quartz has piezoelectric properties.
Okay.
Meaning it can generate an electric charge under pressure. So Gray believes that these standing stones were acting like giant cathodes.
Okay.
Attracting and channeling natural electric currents from the Earth and atmosphere.
So it's like an ancient power grid.
Yeah.
Using the Earth itself as a source of energy.
Exactly.
That's wild. It really makes you question how much we actually know about the capabilities of these ancient cultures.
And that brings us to another crucial point that Gray highlights.
Okay.
The idea of regression from a golden age.
Okay.
He argues that instead of continuous progress, human civilization might have actually experienced a decline in knowledge and abilities over time.
So you're saying that we haven't always been on this upward trajectory of progress?
That's what Gray is suggesting.
Interesting. So what kind of evidence does he use to support that?
Well, he uses examples like the Lascaux cave paintings, which are incredibly sophisticated.
They are beautiful.
And they predate many later forms of art.
Right.
And he also talks about ancient roads like Britain's Icknield Way, which were built with superior techniques.
Wow.
Compared to those used by the Romans centuries later.
So it's like we lost something along the way.
It seems that way.
Like some vital knowledge that previous civilizations possessed.
Precisely.
Wow. It definitely challenges the traditional narrative of linear human progress.
It does indeed. And Gray's theory is that this decline could be linked to the destruction of the pre-flood civilization.
Oh, okay.
He believes that the flood was not just a natural disaster, but possibly a result of this civilization's misuse of advanced technology, leading to their own demise.
That's a pretty heavy thought.
It is.
It's like a cautionary tale for our own time, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, we're making incredible technological advancements.
We are.
But are we using them wisely?
That's the question.
Are we repeating the mistakes of the past?
It's a question worth pondering, for sure.
Yeah.
And Gray's theory certainly makes you think about the potential consequences of unchecked technological advancement.
It's almost like looking in a mirror, isn't it?
It is.
This lost civilization, so advanced, potentially making the same mistakes we seem to be making now.
A lot to think about there.
But before we get too lost in the philosophical implications, I'm curious about something.
Go ahead.
If this pre-flood civilization was so advanced, how come we haven't found more concrete evidence?
That's a good question.
Where are the ruins of their cities? Their technology?
Well, that's one of the biggest challenges with Gray's theory.
Okay.
And he addresses it head on.
Okay.
He argues that much of the physical evidence was likely destroyed by the flood itself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Imagine the sheer destructive power of a global deluge.
Yeah, it would have wiped out everything.
Entire cities submerged under layers of sediment.
So it's like trying to piece together a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Exactly.
But even with the missing pieces, there's still clues, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what kind of clues are we talking about?
Well, there are tantalizing clues scattered across the globe.
Okay.
Gray points to ancient texts that describe technologies and events that sound incredibly advanced for their time.
Like what, for example?
Well, for example, there are ancient Indian texts, the Vaimanika Shastra, that describe flying machines called Vimanas.
Flying machines.
Yeah.
Powered by.
Powered by a mysterious force described as sound.
Sound.
And a liquid metal mercury.
Flying machines powered by sound. That sounds more like science fiction than history.
I know. It's pretty wild.
It is pretty wild.
But Gray argues that we shouldn't dismiss these ancient accounts as mere myth or fantasy. They might contain kernels of truth. Echoes of a time when humanity possessed knowledge that has since been lost.
Okay, so what about physical objects? Are there any physical objects that support this idea?
Well, there's the famous Baghdad Battery.
The Baghdad Battery.
It's a collection of clay pots, copper tubes, and iron rods, dating back to the Parthian or Sassanid period.
Right.
And some researchers believe it might have been used to generate electricity.
Wait, a battery from that long ago? What would they have even used electricity for?
That's a great question.
It is a great question.
And we can only speculate. Perhaps they used it for electroplating. Or for some form of lighting. Or maybe for something we haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah.
The existence of the Baghdad Battery, even if its true purpose, remains a mystery.
Right.
Challenges our assumptions
it really did.
about the technological capabilities of ancient cultures.
Okay. I have to admit, the more we delve into this, the more my mind is starting to open up to these possibilities.
It's fascinating stuff.
But let's get back to those maps for a second.
Okay.
You mentioned that the Piri Reis map shows Antarctica without ice, right? And Gray highlights other maps.
He does.
That predate our modern understanding of the Earth's geography.
Exactly.
Like what kind of map?
Well, there's the Zeno map from 1380. Which supposedly depicts Greenland and North America.
Wow.
And there's a Chinese map from 1137 AD. That's said to be drawn on a spherical grid.
Hold on, a spherical grid? What does that even mean?
It means that the map maker understood that the Earth was a sphere. And used a grid system that took the Earth's curvature into account.
Wow.
It's similar to the latitude and longitude system we use today.
So to achieve this level of cartographic accuracy, they would have needed sophisticated knowledge of geometry and astronomy.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about a level of knowledge that we usually associate with the Greeks or later civilizations. But these maps suggest that this knowledge might have existed much earlier. Possibly inherited from a pre-flood civilization.
That's scary.
Wow. This is really starting to paint a picture of a global civilization.
It is.
With a level of technology and knowledge that we're only beginning to rediscover. And Gray also seems to imply that this civilization wasn't just technologically advanced, but also socially and politically sophisticated.
Yes.
Like, what kind of evidence does he point to for that?
Well, he points to the Tower of Babel story as a potential example. He suggests that it might be a symbolic representation of this pre-flood civilization attempting to create a unified world government.
Interesting.
A centralized power structure.
And that this attempt ultimately led to their downfall.
That's the idea.
So kind of like a warning about the dangers of unchecked ambition.
Exactly.
And centralized power.
Precisely.
The Tower of Babel story can be interpreted as a cautionary tale.
It can.
About the hubris of humanity.
Yes.
The potential consequences of overreaching.
That's a great way to put it.
And Gray suggests that the destruction of this pre-flood civilization might have been a result of their own actions.
Right.
A consequence of their ambition and their misuse of advanced technology.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it?
It is a sobering thought.
But it also highlights the importance of learning from the past.
Wow.
If this pre-flood civilization did exist, and if they did self-destruct, what can we learn from their mistakes?
That's a great question.
How can we use that knowledge to avoid making the same mistakes ourselves?
Those are some big questions for sure.
They are.
But before we get too deep into the existential crisis, there's something else I wanted to ask you about.
Go ahead.
Gray mentions these ancient ships that were far larger than anything built by later civilizations.
That's massive ships.
What's the story there?
Well, there are accounts from various cultures that describe massive ships, far exceeding the size of anything built even in the Roman era.
Wow.
These accounts describe ships capable of carrying thousands of people.
Thousands of people.
And vast amounts of cargo.
Wow.
Suggesting a level of shipbuilding and seafaring.
Okay.
That predates our traditional historical narrative.
So it's not just the technology, but also the scale of their operations. That's impressive.
Exactly.
They were thinking big, literally.
They were.
It suggests a level of global interconnectedness and maritime prowess.
Absolutely.
That challenges our understanding of ancient civilizations.
It really does.
It's like they had the ancient equivalent of cruise ships and cargo freighters.
Yeah.
Traversing the oceans thousands of years ago.
Amazing, isn't it?
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
But if they were so skilled at seafaring, what about air travel?
Oh, that's a good question.
Were those flying machines from the Indian texts actually real?
Well, that's where things get even more speculative.
Okay.
Gray presents evidence from various cultures and time periods that hint at the possibility of ancient flight.
Like what kind of evidence?
Well, there are legends of flying chariots in ancient China.
Okay.
Tales of winged creatures in South America. And even accounts from ancient Egypt.
Wow.
That suggest some form of aerial technology.
I can already hear the skeptics scoffing.
I know, right?
But I have to admit, the idea of ancient civilizations soaring through the skies is incredibly intriguing.
It is.
Are there any physical artifacts that support this idea?
While there aren't any intact flying machines, there are some curious artifacts that have been interpreted as possible components or models of ancient aircraft.
Like what?
There's a small gold object found in Colombia that resembles a modern airplane.
Interesting.
And there are ancient Egyptian carvings that depicts what look like gliders.
So it's like they left us these little breadcrumbs, these tantalizing hints of a past that's far more advanced than we typically imagine.
Exactly.
And Gray takes it a step further.
Actually, it does.
Suggesting that this pre-flood civilization might have even ventured beyond Earth.
Wow.
Wait. You're saying they might have been space travelers?
He presents evidence from ancient texts and artwork that seem to depict celestial journeys and contact with beings from other worlds.
Wow.
He points to the Dogon tribe in Africa, who possess incredibly accurate knowledge of the Sirius star system.
Wow.
Knowledge that they claim was given to them by visitors from the stars.
Wow, that's taken things to a whole new level.
It is.
Space travel, advanced technology, a global civilization.
Yeah.
It's almost too much to process.
It's definitely a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But Gray's theory, as outlandish as it may seem at first, challenges us to rethink our assumptions about the past. It encourages us to look at the evidence with fresh eyes.
I like that.
And to consider the possibility that our history might be far richer and more complex than we've been led to believe.
You know, it's like we've been looking at the world through a narrow lens.
Yeah.
And Gray is handing us a wide-angle lens, revealing a whole new perspective.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
He's urging us to expand our view of history.
Okay.
To be open to the possibility...
Right, the ancients knew more than we give them credit for.
I think that's a great point.
But with all this talk of advanced technology, potential space travel, it's easy to romanticize this pre-flood civilization.
I agree.
But let's not forget that Gray also presents evidence that suggests their downfall was a result of their own actions.
Okay.
Possibly due to the misuse of their advanced technology.
Right. So it's not just about the flood, but also about the potential for humanity to self-destruct.
Exactly.
That's a pretty sobering thought.
It is.
It seems like the biggest lesson we can learn from this lost civilization, if it did indeed exist, is that knowledge and power must be tempered with wisdom and responsibility.
Absolutely.
And it's something we'll need to keep in mind as we continue to explore the mysteries of this pre-flood civilization.
Indeed.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a short break.
Okay.
But don't go anywhere.
Yeah, stick around. When we come back, we'll dive even deeper into the evidence.
Right.
And explore what it all means for our understanding of the past.
Right.
And maybe even our future.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're back, and we're continuing our deep dive into Jonathan Gray's Dead Men's Secrets.
Okay.
And, you know, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
From ancient maps to flying machines. But there's still so much more to explore.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that really fascinates me is Gray's discussion of ancient medical practices.
Okay.
He presents evidence suggesting that they were performing complex surgeries and using medical techniques that we consider advanced even by today's standards.
It's truly remarkable.
So, like, what kind of procedures are we talking about?
Well, Gray highlights examples of brain surgery, organ transplants, and even plastic surgery being performed thousands of years ago.
So they were doing all of this thousands of years ago.
That's what the evidence suggests.
That's incredible. So what kind of evidence do we have for these advanced medical procedures?
Well, aside from the surgical instruments, there are also skeletal remains that show evidence of healed fractures and successful surgeries.
Wow.
Gray mentions a skull from ancient Peru that shows signs of a successful brain surgery.
Really?
With evidence of bone regrowth around the incision.
That's amazing. So does that mean that they had some kind of anesthesia?
It suggests that they had a deep understanding of anatomy anesthesia and antiseptic techniques.
That's mind-boggling to think about them performing brain surgery thousands of years ago without the technology and knowledge we have today.
I know. It really challenges our perception of what ancient cultures were capable of.
Absolutely. And it's not just surgery.
Right.
Gray also presents evidence of ancient cultures using herbal remedies and other natural therapies that were surprisingly effective.
They were very in tune with the natural world.
Like, what kind of remedies are we talking about?
He mentions ancient Egyptian texts that describe treatments for various ailments using plants and minerals, many of which have been validated by modern science.
Oh, wow. So they weren't just, you know, fumbling around in the dark.
No.
They had a system of medicine based on observation, experimentation, and a deep understanding of the natural world.
Precisely.
It makes you wonder if we've lost some valuable knowledge along the way.
Yeah.
In our pursuit of modern medicine.
It's a question worth considering for sure.
Yeah.
There's a growing movement in modern medicine to re-examine traditional healing practices and to integrate them with modern scientific knowledge.
It's interesting. So maybe there's wisdom to be found in the ancient ways.
Possibly.
Okay, so let's move on to another aspect of this pre-flood civilization that Gray highlights.
Okay.
Their incredible craftsmanship and artistry.
Oh, yeah.
He showcases examples of intricate gold and silver work.
Amazing craftsmanship.
Precision-drilled quartz jewelry, and even metal thread manufactured by extrusion.
The skill and precision are just incredible.
These artifacts demonstrate an astonishing level of skill and technical expertise.
They really do.
It makes our modern mass-produced jewelry look pretty dull in comparison, doesn't it?
That's true.
But it's not just the small-scale stuff.
Right.
Gray also dedicates an entire chapter to large-scale construction.
He does.
Highlighting structures that continue to baffle modern engineers.
Absolutely.
Like what, for example?
Well, he brings up the massive stone blocks of Baalbek, Lebanon. Some of which weigh hundreds of tons.
Hundreds of tons? How do they even move those?
That's the mystery. These blocks are fitted together with such precision that you can't even slip a knife blade between them.
Wow. That's incredible.
How they quarried, transported, and erected these massive stones remains a mystery, leading some to speculate about the use of advanced technologies that we haven't even conceived of yet.
It's like they had access to anti-gravity devices or some other form of super-strength technology.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
And then there's the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Oh, yes.
Which Gray argues was not just a tomb, but a complex structure with advanced energy fields and astronomical alignment.
Fascinating stuff.
He points out that the pyramid's dimensions incorporate incredibly precise mathematical constants.
They do.
Such as pi and the golden ratio.
Which suggests a level of mathematical and astronomical knowledge that far surpasses what we typically attribute to ancient cultures.
Yeah. It's like they encoded secrets of the universe into the very structure of the pyramid.
It's an intriguing idea.
It really makes you wonder what other secrets are hidden within these ancient structures waiting to be discovered.
There's still so much we don't know.
Exactly. Speaking of secrets, Gray also explores some intriguing and mysterious phenomena.
Oh, yeah.
Like the crystal skulls and the singing statues.
Those are fascinating.
These objects hint at a level of technological sophistication that we're only beginning to understand.
Absolutely.
Like the crystal skulls, for example. With their intricate optical systems and strange acoustic properties.
It's amazing.
Suggest an advanced understanding of crystallography and energy manipulation.
And the singing statues.
Right.
Which reportedly emit musical tones when exposed to certain frequencies or environmental conditions, suggest a mastery of acoustics and resonance that we haven't yet replicated.
So they were really in tune with the subtle energies and forces of nature.
It seems that way.
These mysteries serve as a reminder that there's still so much we don't know.
Absolutely.
About the capabilities of ancient civilizations.
And it's a call to approach the past.
Yeah.
With an open mind and a sense of wonder.
I completely agree. We shouldn't limit our understanding of history to what we can currently explain or comprehend.
We need to be open to new possibilities.
Exactly. Perhaps the ancients possessed knowledge of abilities that we've lost touch with, waiting to be rediscovered.
And that brings us to perhaps the most compelling piece of evidence that Gray presents. Not a physical artifact, but a recurring theme throughout ancient myths and legends.
What's that?
The story of a great flood that wiped out a highly advanced civilization. This global flood myth found in cultures all around the world suggests a shared memory of a cataclysmic event that reshaped human history. It's a powerful archetype that speaks to our deepest fears and our fascination with the past. And Gray argues that this event, the Great Flood, was not just a natural disaster, but the result of this pre-flood civilization's misuse of advanced technology. Leading to their own destruction.
So it's a cautionary tale then.
It is.
A reminder that knowledge without wisdom can be dangerous.
Absolutely.
And that we must learn from the mistakes of the past to avoid repeating them.
It's a message that's as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago.
And it's something we need to keep in mind as we continue to explore these mysteries.
We do.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into dead men's secrets. What are the key takeaways? What can we learn from this exploration of a lost civilization?
Well, for me, it's a call to re-examine our assumptions about the past. And to be open to alternative interpretations of the evidence.
I like them.
It's about recognizing the incredible ingenuity and potential of our ancestors and learning from both their triumphs and their failures.
That's a great point. It's also a reminder that the quest for knowledge is never ending.
It's not.
There's still countless mysteries to be unraveled.
Oh, yeah.
Secrets waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely.
Beneath the surface of our planet and within the depths of our own history.
I agree.
And on that note, I encourage you, our listeners, to keep questioning, keep exploring. And keep seeking knowledge wherever it may lead you.
I think that's a great message to end on.
All right. So until next time, keep diving deep. Okay. So we're back and ready to continue our deep dive into Dead Men's Secrets by Jonathan Gray. We've been talking about the possibility of a technologically advanced civilization before the flood. And one thing I found really fascinating was Gray's discussion of ancient medical practices.
Oh, yeah. That's some pretty interesting stuff.
He presents evidence suggesting that ancient people were performing complex surgeries and using medical techniques that we consider advanced even by today's standards.
It's really quite remarkable.
So what kind of evidence are we talking about here?
Well, Gray highlights examples of brain surgery.
Brain surgery? Wow.
Organ transplant.
Really?
And even plastic surgery being performed thousands of years ago.
That's incredible. What kind of evidence is there to support these claims?
Well, aside from surgical instruments, there are skeletal remains that show evidence of healed fractures and successful surgeries.
Wow. So they were actually doing these things.
Seems so.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
Gray mentions a skull from ancient Peru that shows signs of a successful brain surgery, with evidence of bone regrowth around the incision.
Wow. That means they must have had some understanding of antiseptics.
It seems they had a pretty deep understanding of anatomy, anesthesia, and antiseptic techniques.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Really makes you wonder what else they knew.
It does, and it's not just surgery.
Oh, right. You mentioned herbal remedies, too.
Exactly. Gray also presents evidence of ancient cultures using herbal remedies and other natural therapies that were surprisingly effective.
Like what kind of remedies are we talking about here?
Well, he mentions ancient Egyptian texts that describe treatments for various ailments using plants and minerals, many of which have been validated by modern science.
There wasn't just trial and error. They had an actual system.
It seems they had a system of medicine based on observation, experimentation, and a deep understanding of the natural world.
Makes you wonder if maybe in our pursuit of modern medicine, we've lost touch with some of that ancient wisdom.
It's definitely something to think about.
Definitely. All right, so moving on from medicine, Gray also talks about the incredible craftsmanship and artistry of these ancient civilizations.
Oh, yeah, their skills were amazing.
He showcases examples of intricate gold and silver work, precision-drilled quartz jewelry, and even metal thread manufactured by extrusion.
The level of detail is incredible.
It really is. These artifacts demonstrate an astonishing level of skill and technical expertise.
It makes you wonder how they did it.
It does. And it's not just the small-scale stuff either.
Right. Gray dedicates a whole chapter to large-scale construction.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. What are some of the examples he gives?
Well, he talks about the massive stone blocks of Baalbek, Lebanon.
Oh,
some of which weigh hundreds of tons.
Hundreds of tons. How do they even move those things?
That's the big question. These blocks are fitted together with such precision that you can't even slip a knife blade between them.
Wow. That's unbelievable. It makes our modern construction methods look pretty primitive.
How they quarried, transported, and erected these massive stones remains a mystery.
It really is a mystery.
It leads some to speculate about advanced technologies that we haven't even conceived of yet.
Yeah, it's like they had anti-gravity devices or something.
It's mind-boggling.
And of course, there's the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Ah, yes, a classic.
Gray argues that it wasn't just a tomb, but a complex structure with advanced energy fields and astronomical alignments.
Right. It's much more than just a pile of rocks.
He points out that the pyramid's dimensions incorporate incredibly precise mathematical constants, like pi and the golden ratio.
Precisely. It suggests a level of mathematical and astronomical knowledge that's way beyond what we usually give them credit for.
It's like they encoded secrets of the universe into the structure of the pyramid.
It's a fascinating idea.
Speaking of secrets, Gray also explores some really intriguing and mysterious phenomena, like the crystal skulls.
Oh, yes, those are fascinating.
And the singing statues.
They really capture the imagination.
These objects hint at a level of technological sophistication that we're just starting to grasp.
They really do.
For example, the crystal skulls.
Yes, with their intricate optical system.
And strange acoustic properties.
Right. It's like they knew things about crystallography and energy manipulation that we're only now starting to rediscover.
And the singing statues.
Yes.
Which reportedly emit musical tones when exposed to certain frequencies or environmental conditions.
It's like they were masters of acoustics and resonance.
It's amazing. All these mysteries remind us that there's still so much we don't know about these ancient civilizations.
Definitely. We have to keep an open mind.
Yeah, we can't just dismiss things because we can't explain them.
Exactly. Gray's book really challenges us to rethink our assumptions about the past.
It does, and it makes you wonder what other secrets might be out there just waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely. There's still so much to learn.
So much to learn. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive into Dead Men's Secrets.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. Thanks for joining me on this exploration of a potentially lost civilization.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of our listeners out there, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep seeking knowledge wherever it may lead.
Until next time, keep diving deep.